Hello and welcome. Bienvenue. Folcha. We're here at the Wheel Club in West End, Montreal, Canada on February 8th, 2022 for a remarkable cultural event with so many links between Ireland and Quebec, between fact and fiction, between writers and performers, between French and English. It's like a Celtic knot. I'm Kathleen Fee, Artistic Director of Festival Bloomsday Montreal. And before getting any further, we'd like to acknowledge that we are based on the unceded Indigenous territory of Tiohtià:ke, and that the Kanien'kehá:ka Mohawk Nation is the custodian of these lands and waters. Looking down the hill from where we are, we can see those waters, the mighty St. Lawrence flowing out to the Atlantic Ocean, 1,500 kilometers away, and another 4,000 kilometers away is the coast of Sligo, Ireland, where, as you'll hear in tonight's play, a body washed up on a beach. Not the first or the last body to do so, nor the first or last to wash up in the music and literature of Ireland and leave an ache in our souls. In the 1970s, a middle-aged married couple went to Sligo for a month-long getaway. Finding a body on the beach near their cottage put paid to their hoped-for privacy. The woman, Marie Cardinal, incorporated the incident into her novel Une vie pour deux, One Life for Two. Published in 1978 and still in print, it's been called the book for people who are still in love, but who sometimes wonder if they really are. Governor General's award-winning playwright Evelyne de la Chenelière adapted the novel for the stage, working closely with director and dramaturge Alice Ronfard, who happens to be the daughter of the couple who found the body on the beach. Like I told you, there are lots of twists and turns. So, when the wife, Simone, says, "I called the children, let them know we had arrived safely," one of those children is actually here with us tonight. Alice has won awards too numerous to mention for her work in the theater. She has directed operas and circus shows, she's curated museum exhibits, and is committed to training a new generation of theater artists. The text we'll hear is by member of the Order of Canada and Governor General's award-winning translator, Linda Gaborio. It is magnificent. It sings, it growls, it's prose, it's poetry, it's earthy, it's heartfelt. It's a work of literature in itself, worthy of the French original. Linda, Evelyne, and Alice will happily answer questions you put in the chat after the reading. We look forward to a lively discussion. Oh, and the play is published by Playwrights Canada Press. You can purchase a printed copy or download it, as I did. But now, let me introduce the cast. You can find brief bios of everyone involved on our website. Suffice it to say that they are gifted, versatile, sought after, experienced professional actors who take their work seriously, but not themselves. It's truly a privilege to know them. Violette Chauveau plays Simone. Violette originated this role at Théâtre Espace in Montreal and was awarded the Theatre Critics Award for her searing performance. Normand Bissonnette plays the husband, Pierre. Normand and Violette are a couple in real life, one of those connections. And Ève Gadois plays Mary, the body on the beach, whose bleached bones pierce the illusions Simone and Pierre have brought with them to Ireland, revealing the unbreakable bond beneath. I will be reading the headings and some essential stage directions. And now, Flesh and Other Fragments of Love. On y va? Fragment 1. The Landscape.
A body? What kind of body? Whose body? Where? What time? How? How long ago? Hair, gulls, hands, eyes? A man or a woman? A woman, of course a woman. I was sure of it. Did you touch her? Did you touch her, Pierre? Was she beautiful, soft, white? Are you sad, devastated, frightened, disgusted? You don't want to tell me why? She's yours? You don't want her to share her with me? You don't want her to bring us together? You want her to drive us farther apart? Do you love her? Do you love her more than me? Why do you love her? Do you still love me? Pierre, do you love me? Why don't you love me more? Pierre, do you want to love me more? Even more? Do you want to love me till death do us part? How can you accept that death will part us? Pierre, are you going to let death part us?
I was walking on the beach. I don't know anything about the sea, the sun, the shore. Simone comes from the Mediterranean coast, while my roots are deep in the land of northern France. Go explore while I finish arranging everything.
He doesn't know anything about the sea, the sun, the shore. I come from the Mediterranean coast, whilst Pierre's roots are deep in the land of northern France. I thought our geographies would be united in Ireland. I thought that hand in hand, we would draw a new map together during this long vacation in Ireland. I picked bouquets in our vacation home in Ireland. I made tea in our vacation home in Ireland. I washed the sheets and linens in our vacation home in Ireland. I've almost finished arranging everything in our vacation home in Ireland. How beautiful it's going to be, this vacation together in Ireland. Ireland can be grey, but it's mostly green. We can stay inside when it rains. I called the children, let them know we had arrived safely. I know they don't care, but still, they weren't home anyway, or they decided not to answer. I'm not worried. I'll call back. I'm not worried. They're enjoying it, enjoying our absence. It's good to go away occasionally. We should make a bonfire on the beach. Yes, what a good idea. When the rain stops, we'll make a fire on the beach and we'll cook some fish. The rain has already stopped. Go explore while I finish arranging everything. I know you're dying to do it. Your walking shoes are in the front hall. You forgot them in the car. I know you'll end up walking barefoot, but take it easy. Give your feet time to form calluses. Be careful. The paths are steep. You'll find the beach on your own. You can hear the ocean from everywhere.
Fragment 2. The corpse.
I was walking on the beach. At first, I saw a dark, tangled mass that I mistook for a pile of seaweed. I've always been drawn to these long strands of black algae. I find the minute details of marine vegetation as fascinating as the fine line where the sky meets the sea. Simone told me, go explore while I finish arranging everything. She knows I like to go for a walk alone sometimes, get the lay of the land. I thought that was nice, very considerate of Simone. She had guessed once again what I wanted, and she was trying to accommodate me. I felt a wave of affection for her. I picked up my shoes in one hand, a walking stick in the other. I felt a bit old. I thought this vacation in Ireland was going to be good for Simone, good for both of us, and I was happy. But before long, I was annoyed when I thought about the scene. Irritated, actually.
Go explore while I finish arranging everything.
Behind this offer of freedom was a desire to control that I hated. Once again, Simone is telling me what I should do, meting out my freedom. Go explore while I finish arranging everything. In other words, I consent to your being free from me, as long as I agree on when and how you'll be free. For instance, free to take a walk on the beach in Ireland, where I have decided we'll spend our vacation. And by the way, let me remind you that I will arrange everything while you go exploring. Simone arranges everything and wants to arrange me too. Lock me into her tomb. Something will have to happen during this vacation in Ireland. Something. Then I started. The seaweed was actually long, tangled hair.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
That body.
Yes.
That's all people can talk about in the village.
I was walking on the beach. I didn't see her hair. At first I saw seagulls, circling quite low, dozens of gulls. They were hovering almost on top of each other in their immobile flight, forming a kind of roof over a strange scene. A body clothed in sand reveals its perfect shape intact. Lovely sensual curves, long, delicate bones, so graceful the gulls don't dare go too close. It feels as if they are watching over a sleeping body. The drifting has come to an end. Immobility invites contemplation. Slowly, the birds let a few feathers fall. They land on the corpse and form a shawl. Nights are cool in Ireland.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
That woman. That drowned body.
Yes.
That's all people can talk about in the village. She lived in New York for a few years. No one had heard from her.
I was walking on the beach. I didn't see the gulls. At first I saw open hands, as if they had just strewn the seashells and the algae. The nails of a mermaid, the fingers of a goldsmith, the underwater hands of a sea nymph. I can't resist their frozen beckoning and their resemblance to mine, human. So walking along the shore, happy as the king of a deserted kingdom, a kingdom where the presence of another person would have been unbearable, I discover a stranger's hands. Normally I would have hated those hands, but this time I know they can't destroy my kingdom. Perhaps because of the gulls who don't fly away and refuse to be distracted from their meal. A world where a man doesn't bother birds is not a normal world. The shadow of my body covers the body washed ashore. Never has anyone shown such abandon in front of me. Never have I known such intimacy. Never has anyone behaved as immodestly as this corpse, indifferent to everything. Suddenly, nothing seemed freer or more impertinent than death.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
That Mary, that woman who drowned.
Yes.
That's all people can talk about in the village. She was a nurse in Sligo before leaving for America. She lived in New York. No one around here had heard from her.
I was walking on the beach. I didn't see her hands. At first I saw eyes. 2 blank holes. 2 eyes eaten away to the brain. 2 wells staring at me with all their dark emptiness. An incredibly attractive emptiness. Like the void that hypnotizes. An inner agitation I had forgotten. That's all people can talk about in the village. They don't know if she fell or if she threw herself into the sea. One day I saw a dead horse at the foot of the cliffs in Ballyshannon. Around here, the cliffs crumble like cake. Strange, isn't it?
What?
That Mary, that woman washed ashore.
You were walking on the beach. Will you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? You were walking on the beach. You didn't see right away. You smelled, of course, but you won't say that. You won't talk about the smell, infinitely bland, bland and sticky. You won't talk about the smell of my death that you discovered walking on the beach. You'll talk about my hair like seaweed, the gauze like a shawl of my mermaid hands and my eaten eyes. But will you say what I said to you? I said, look, Pierre, look how dead I am, and yet so full of life. Look, Moss has grown green as the emerald isle, in my mouth, my eyes, my nose. Look how hospitable I am. Look how inhabited I am. Colonies are exploring me. I am a fertile land, a new world, a garden. Tiny fish are swimming in my stomach. I am an aquarium, a hive, a den. I inhale and I sputter from every pore. I am an eruption, a geyser, a fountain. Look how I open up, how I breathe through the incisions in my flesh like so many mouths smiling on my limbs. I am being sculpted, pruned, shaped. Death is opening me up, and soon it will turn me inside out like the sheepskins they turn inside out to make jackets. My body had to be split open so I could finally abandon it to life, to the appetite of animals. Ultimately, I'm much more alive now that I'm dead. But you won't say that.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
That Mary with her gaping holes.
Yes.
That's all people can talk about in the village. She was a nurse. She got pregnant. Her parents kicked her out. She left for America. She was forced to abandon her medical studies in order to support her son. She was exhausted. I understand her. Motherhood is insurmountable exhaustion.
Stop.
Why? It's true.
Stop saying you understand her. You don't know her.
I asked around. The rest is easy to imagine. So nothing. I understand her.
You're presumptuous.
And you're jealous.
Jealous of what?
Jealous because Mary and I have something in common, despite you. Despite the fact that you keep her to yourself.
What do you think you have in common?
We're both women, mothers. We understand certain things. Our way of being and feeling are similar. We're sisters.
Female solidarity is a figment of the imagination. You women spend your days envying each other. You flatter each other, but you curse each other in secret, wish each other the worst misfortunes. Backstabbing is a female sport. You murder each other in your dreams.
Oh, we know. You always say women are women's worst enemies. How original. But behind all that, there's a profound respect and the most intimate kind of complicity. And you can't stand being excluded.
What I can't stand is you're describing Mary as if you knew her. That woman drowned and no one will ever know why. You want to turn her life into a good story, but her life will never be a good story.
So what is her life then?
It's a mystery.
And I'm not mysterious, right? If only I were mysterious, you would be forever fascinated the way you are by this dead woman we know nothing about. We only know that her death was mysterious, therefore her life is too. How lucky she is to be dead and mysterious. There's no mystery about me now. I tell you everything, or almost, and what I don't tell you, the thing I hide, don't make me a mysterious person in your eyes, since you don't suspect that I could hide anything from you. I'm so spontaneous. That's the problem, isn't it? There doesn't seem to be any mystery about me. But you know what, Pierre? I hide all sorts of things from you. I have hidden all sorts of things from you. Do you find me mysterious now? There, are you happy? You made me get carried away. And now you can say, you get so carried away, Simone. You got carried away again. And I hate it when you get carried away. Do I get carried away? No, I control myself. I stay calm. And you always get carried away, Simone. You women are always getting carried away and pitying yourselves nonstop. So stop pitying yourself, stop pitying yourself, stop pitying yourself. But the truth is, Pierre, you give me no choice but to pity myself, so I do. Yes, I pity myself. Because part of me has disappeared. Because I can see your life without me, like a landscape where I'm absent. And I pity myself because I see your life where I can't be seen behind the window, wild into the house with the children. And I pity myself for being the wife you cheat on, the wife who feels cheated while you feel more and more fulfilled. Yes, you're like a flower. that never stops blooming, unfolding his petals, disgustingly scented and colorful, like that flower. What's it called? Like that flower with the firm petals and the erected pistil, indecent free, while I, almost wilted from a lack of soil, rain, and sun, and most of all, from a lack of seeing myself in your eyes, I'm shriveling. Look at me. Your gaze is a vacuum. Look at me. Will you ever see me? If only you could see me, you would pity me too, with all your heart. If only you could see me, you would pity me. Pity me. You would say, poor you, poor you, poor you, and you would be right, poor me. The children will be leaving home soon. They'll go off to live their lives without me, and without them, I won't know how to live. I've forgotten how to live without children, but you haven't. You know perfectly well how to live without children. That's what you've always done. You're always leaving me for women who are lively, gay, carefree. How can you expect me to be lively, gay, carefree? Where would I find the time to be lively, gay, carefree? Time is against me in the cruelest way. Time is robbing my youth, my beauty, my mind, and soon I will be nothing but a corpse like Mary. You are my penance. That's right, my punishment. That's why I met you. For some unknown reason, I deserve to be punished. Go away!
I'm leaving.
Go away!
I'm leaving.
Go away!
I'm leaving.
Go away!
And so on and so forth.
Fragment 3, Blood and Tears.
Simone and I break up regularly. I'd go so far as to say that our separations are heroically constant. Our love life feels like one unending separation. When I see Simone clinging to me, begging, sometimes I think she actually enjoys our repeated divorce scenes. She is excessive by nature. She's drawn to excess. The more monumental, baroque, extravagant, the better. She prefers wild, harsh landscapes to beautiful countryside, crashing breakers to docile ripples.
There are two possible scenarios. First scenario, Pierre leaves me. I throw myself at his feet and I cry until the floor is wet. I cling to him with all my might. I beg him to keep me. I confess everything. I promise him everything. I ask for forgiveness. I blame myself and I say, so many years have gone by and I'm none the wiser. I kiss his feet, aware of how shocked our daughters would be to see me in this situation, in this position. What my daughters don't understand is that dignity is not necessarily something I care about. I'm prepared to repent outrageously, prepared to become a puddle as long as he finally takes me into his arms. Second scenario, I'm the one who leaves him. I say, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I say it several times. I'm leaving. But I never leave because Pierre doesn't cry. Pierre doesn't shout. Pierre doesn't beg me. Pierre doesn't say a thing. And in no time at all, I've run out of insults. So I end up throwing myself at his feet. I apologize. I cry until I turn into a puddle, and I beg him to let me, I beg him not to let me leave. Which brings us right back to the first scenario. My daughters find me pathetic. They're right. Strange, isn't it?
What?
That Mary, that slut.
Why? Why are you getting so carried away?
Because I envy her.
How can you envy her? She's dead.
She's dead, but my situation is worse. I'm going to die someday.
Well, I guess seen that way.
What are people saying in the village?
Apparently she was going out with a married man no one ever saw again.
Did she love him?
I don't know. You ask strange questions. Apparently she was a rather cold woman, distant, poised.
The opposite of me, in a way.
In a way.
I got to know blood globule by globule. Blood sucked in and blood pumped out of the heart. Its vital course in the many ways it could flow in the wrong direction. Or escape. I never ceased to marvel at all that. This knowledge made all men seem the same to me. Why choose one when they are all irrigated by similar globules? That night, I wanted to lose my virginity. Make some of that precious blood flow. Any man would be fine as long as he knew what to do. I wanted to join the girls who know. But they know, no matter how much we long to discover the new world, it's sadly similar to the one we left behind. Only our way of looking at things changes. For a while, at least. Before long, we admit there is no love in our desire for someone else. There is no love in our desperate need for someone else. Everything is mechanical. We get married without love. We make love without love. We build cities without love. We light them at night without love. There is no love in their countless streets where we pace and pass houses where there is no love. Where a mother protects her children without love, like a bird roosts on her eggs without love. And all that, the cities, the coasts, the moors, the ports, the mountains, the bleak ties that entangle people, in all of that, there is no love. Love doesn't exist. Only blood and tears are real. No love in the doctor's acts. Only hygiene, calm, authority. No love in those endlessly repeated acts, examining throats, eyes, passive bodies, feeling glands, checking for tumors. There is no love in any of that. And yet that is all the sick long for. Otherwise they would hide to lick their wounds and wait for them to heal. The sick long to be examined with love, to be told, "You'll be all right. Don't worry. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. Not you. I love you too much to let you die."
Pierre, I'm bleeding. I'm wounded. I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding the blood of the world. All of humanity's blood, drop by drop, month by month, assimilated in my belly. The hemorrhaging is in the endless blood and tears, forms rivulets. Blood and tears from rivers that flow since life began, long rivers of despair in which the Ophelias of this world drown regularly. Someone spots something pale in the dark water, then long hair. I'm sinking, Pierre, I'm sinking. And incessant seeping forms rivulets, drops, streams, currents, threads, trickles, lumps, bubbles, jets, clots, fountains of oil, lava, magma, floods of viscous, milky, clear, thick, warm, murky secretions, red, brown, black, raspberry, torrents, porridge, jam, jelly, sealed compotes of me, all of me, in this endless tide. I will spill all of me in long gushing spurts. I'm afraid, Pierre. I'm afraid of becoming dry, parched, Pierre. Look how I'm pouring. Look how I'm leaking. Look how I'm flowing. I'm an old pen, a faucet, a leaky pail. I'm overflowing. I'm drowning, flooding. There's no saving me. Help me, Pierre. Rescue me. Stop me. Irrigate me before I dry up.
You're so dramatic, Simone.
I'm not dramatic. I'm tragic.
Fragment 4, the belly.
At first, I was devastated. What a disgrace, what a burden. Nature played a trick on me. That wasn't supposed to happen, that couldn't happen, that shouldn't have happened. And yet, it did. That's the fate of silly women desperately in love. But I was never in love and never silly. At one time, I used to read Yeats' poems. I didn't understand them. I guessed that they were about love and the suffering related to love, and I thought that the poor man simply should have loved more moderately. Along with Joyce, Beckett, Wilde, and many others, that writer was the pride of Ireland and the nationalists. Yeats was born in our county in Sligo, so he had a privileged status. That was the only reason my parents, who were fervent Catholics, tolerated him. I remember one poem about white birds. Would that we were, my beloved, white birds on the foam of the sea, and the image of Dana, the goddess mother of Ireland, who inspired me much more than the austere Christ they preached to me at home in the convent school. I am haunted by numberless islands and many a Danaan shore, where time would surely forget us and sorrow come near us no more. Soon far from the rose and the lily and fret of the flames would we be, were we only white birds, my beloved, buoyed out on the foam of the sea. Why want to be a white bird? Why want to suffer from love?
Strange, isn't it?
What?
Do you think that she loved him?
That who loved whom?
That Mary loved Billy.
So his name was Billy.
That's what people say.
Do we care?
I do. What do you think? Did Mary tell him she was expecting a baby?
I don't think so.
I think she did.
I have to tell Billy. Announce it like wonderful, positive news. I don't love Billy, but I like him, and that's enough. I'll be as wise and as lucid as Molly Bloom when she thinks, well, as well him as another. Not sad or prideful, but just aware of everything. A precious knowledge, yes. I'll join Molly and all those women who know that love is secondary in the business of love. I've seen enough bodies to realize that all bodies come down to the same thing.
Now she's speaking to Billy.
Yes, I'm a medical student, and all bodies come down to the same thing, you know. That's why there's no love in medicine, I can tell you that. There's no love. Because sooner or later, it all comes down to the same thing. We can't go on rediscovering America. Don't you agree, mister? Mister? Mister?
Simone wants Pierre to participate.
My name is Billy. And you?
Mary?
You're an odd bird, Mary.
I'd rather be a bird than a fish.
Well, I don't agree, Mary. I think that everything can be constantly rediscovered, and that America offers infinite possibilities. They even say there are still places unknown to cartographers.
Even in New York?
Especially in New York. Alleyways, mazes, store windows, gardens, parks, benches, perfumes, virgins.
I like to think that every big city is still a virgin in places.
What about you?
What about me?
Are you still a virgin in places?
Completely. Unexplored, absolutely. And then I gave him a knowing look. Coy. Almost sassy. Like this. I never would have thought I could do it. I flashed an ambiguous smile like this. Where does this knowledge, this instinct come from? What a look he gave me. Like a dog who'd been promised a bone. At first, he didn't believe me, but it's true. But it's true, I told him. I'm a virgin, as unspoiled as America. He preferred to go to my place. Let me handle this. When he said, let me handle this, so breathless and earnest, I felt like laughing, but I held back. I didn't want him to lose the urge. Then I got scared. Would his rough red hands tear open my belly the way I'd seen them handle the slippery fish? I felt vulnerable in the hands of the fishermen and distant, no matter how hard I tried. Let me handle this, he whispered again, maybe at a loss for words. Let me handle this. Of course, what else could I do? His tongue was stupid and hot. It kept wriggling around my mouth, but his hands were like mad magicians, delicious and perverse, and I encouraged them with my little sighs. Then Billy guided my hand until it found something hard and warm and incredibly vibrant. I had never touched anything like it. Of course, in my work as a nurse, I had already seen dozens of them, but nothing like that. I had the feeling I was holding a life that had nothing to do with the rest of Billy. An animal that seemed to be hurting him, since Billy let out a kind of whine and sucked the air in through his teeth as if he was trying to soothe the pain. I held it the way I would have held a pigeon prisoner by the throat. I kept thinking, I mustn't let it escape. I wondered what was next.
Why are you doing this?
Doing what?
You're bringing her back to life.
I'm inventing her with you.
I don't think we can do this together.
Why not?
Because we'll always come up with competing interpretations.
Why?
We just do.
It doesn't matter, Pierre. It's only a game.
They stare at each other in cahoots, in love, erotically.
You play strange games.
Do I?
And I always lose.
Why do you always lose?
Because you're so eloquent, so persuasive.
I'm eloquent?
Yes.
And persuasive?
Yes.
And touching?
Yes.
And colorful?
Yes.
And undeniable?
You are undeniably undeniable.
I'm not making you say that?
Oh, no. You're not making me say that. I'm saying it on my own. Simone has always fascinated me. Sometimes I secretly observe her, when she's folding my shirts, for instance, or when we're entertaining our friends and she's enjoying them. Simone is a fabulous hostess, and our evenings are often memorable. We prepare the meal together. Sometimes we make love just before the first guests arrive. Our scent blends with the smell of the casserole in the oven. Don't ask me why, but peeling potatoes, dicing vegetables, breaking an egg, beating the mayonnaise, basting the salmon, we find all of that terribly erotic. The rest of the evening is just as exciting. Simone dazzles me. Her humor, her wit, her way of being tuned into everyone's slightest desire, of quickly responding to comments or gestures, making every guest feel like the most important person in her eyes. Simone exudes a sincere, equitable, precious affection. She breathes, she undulates, she swallows. It's as if she were swimming or dancing, which is the same thing in her case. Once I watched her so intently that I forgot to swallow my saliva and it dripped on my shirt. Our friends laughed. All evening, Simone floats about without being superficial. She is intrigued without being indiscreet, jokes without ever being inappropriate. She knows how to be quiet, too. She knows how to enjoy the meal, unlike hosts who consider it a point of honor not to enjoy anything. Simone tastes. Simone talks. Simone is eloquent, persuasive, colorful, touching, undeniable. Simone is happy. She knows that when they leave, we'll start over again.
Mary was happy. She would have a child, a husband. She'd become a doctor. Billy was coming Thursday. She would announce the news. He would be happy too. When Billy arrived, she kissed him gently. She laughed. She was happy to see him, and he was happy and surprised to see her in such a good mood. She had him sit down ceremoniously, making fun of the ceremony.
We're going to get married, Billy. I would like to be your wife. We're going to get married because I know that's what you wanted from the very beginning, and because I'm expecting a baby. No, I'm not joking. I'll play house with you. I'll be your wife and the mother of your son. I'm sure it's a boy. And soon you'll be able to say, my wife, my son, my house, my car, my fish. Isn't that amazing? Are you moved? You don't believe it? Well, it's true, of course. I owe you that. You taught me everything. You don't look happy. I thought you'd be happy. I agree. I never thought this would happen, but it did. Life is determined, isn't it? Sometimes it outsmarts the smartest. Look at the face you're making. Come on. The three of us will be happy. Of course I didn't do it on purpose. What do you mean? Do you really think I wanted to be saddled with a husband and a baby? Who do you think you are? Do you think you're a dream come true for a woman like me? I'm a modern woman. I left my parents, their farm, and their retarded neighbours, and I was about to leave Ireland, its bloody history and its dead language. Do you think I'm delighted to be stuck here with you, the wife of a fishmonger? Don't forget, I'm a doctor. I know, not yet, but soon. Pardon me? You're married. What do you mean? You already have a wife. Yes, I understand. Well, go home to her, the poor thing. You thought I suspected it. That you had a wife. Well, no, I didn't suspect it. I don't know how to recognize that kind of thing. Those stories bore me to death. I made a fool of myself, didn't I? How humiliating. Yes, that's right, leave, fast. Before it becomes unbearable. Some women know how to faint in situations like this, but not me. What am I going to do? You're asking me what I'm going to do? It's none of your business now.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
He's a coward, that Billy.
Here we go. He's a coward.
Sorry, but there's no other word.
There are lots of other words.
Or really, like what?
If I were to say, for example, that he doesn't feel like recognizing that child, that he doesn't want to leave his wife for Mary. If I were to say that he made a mistake, that he was careless.
I'd say he's got no backbone, that he's only thinking about himself.
And who is she thinking about when she asks him to marry him?
That's different.
Is it?
She's carrying their child, and he refuses to commit himself.
So what? She wanted a no-commitment relationship herself.
Yes, but the situation changed.
Because she decides to have a baby.
She doesn't decide anything. It's their baby.
She decides to keep the baby. She decides that Billy should marry her. She decides that he'll be the breadwinner so she can finish her studies. She decides everything, and he's supposed to accept it all?
He has to take responsibility for his actions.
Take responsibility. The age-old formula you've always saddled us with. You want to drag us into your useless sacrifice, your smug abnegation. You want us to suffer with you. You want us to become dull and ugly with you. And most of all, you want us to pay with you. Pay for the pleasure, for having been carefree, casual, and daring. You want us to pay the price every day for every time we felt free without you.
Who are you talking about, you and us?
You, Simone.
The problem is, your freedom is a ravenous monster. The more I feed the monster, the hungrier the bloodthirsty predator gets. I can't let your insatiable freedom devour me, Pierre. I'm not Mary.
And I'm not Billy.
You're two of a kind.
What?
You run away like him.
I have a right to my instability.
You've always been immature.
Yes. And I claim my right to immaturity. It's necessary. It's the key to progress, evolution, and freedom. It helps avoid definition and the prison of institutions.
And meanwhile, I am defined by the guiding principles of family life. Virtue, motherly love, and good housekeeping.
You wanted your family.
I still do, but not like this.
Fragment 5, The Fist.
Simone and I dreamed of an open relationship. We went through the motions of a wedding in white. For our family's sake. The ceremony, the reception, the honeymoon, the white gown, the crown of orange blossoms, the veil, the bride's bouquet. We did everything according to their rules, knowing that once united, we would turn our backs forever on their old-fashioned, absurd, incomprehensible customs. We had been raised according to the principles of an unfair morality that we rejected with every fiber of our bodies. We were young, part of the youth who survived the war unscathed. Our apartment was always full of graduate students, professors, artists, communists, hippies. We loved their rebellion. Of all our friends, we preferred the outsiders, the losers, the crazies. We thought they possessed a mysterious wisdom inaccessible to the majority. Nothing bored us more than respectable people and proper families like our own. We hated all prescribed truths. We had come to see good taste, politics, and science as suspect, and that made us feel so powerful. Freedom was the only virtue we cherished. We both had relationships on the side, intellectual and sexual relationships. Simone and I practiced high infidelity, closing our eyes and gritting our teeth. I stifled my jealousy. I ignored hers. Freedom, pleasure. All other considerations seemed petty and bourgeois. We were revolutionaries. We made fun of chores and the importance of a routine that stifles poetry before it sees the light of day. We rejected the very idea of a schedule. Time is not made to be scheduled. Furthermore, time doesn't exist. Appetite is the only thing that is real. For us, busy people were victims of vanity, caught up in a farce, slaves to endless activities, driven by greed and the fear of dying. Until one day, we had to gently kick the graduate students, professors, artists, communists, and hippies out of our apartments. Give the baby's room a fresh coat of paint. Simone was expecting our first child. The outsiders, the losers, the crazies seemed less visionary. We felt the need for some order and cleanliness. Time became precious. We made lists of the chores to be done. We started seeing each other as strange objects. Yes, of course, a woman. But what do you do with a woman once she's your wife? Perhaps deep down inside, without admitting it, we hoped to become what is commonly called a proper family.
I wanted to be a revolutionary, but I didn't know how to go about it. I don't like being part of a group. I'm never really at ease in that situation. A family, yes, why not? The family I was going to found. Far away from my mother's neuroses, of course. A husband, 3 children. That will be the perfect size. We will thrive on harmony, sharing, and affection. It's a choice. It's admirable. It's not revolutionary, but it's noble. I'm even prepared to become a busy bourgeois woman. I'll talk to myself if I start to feel lonely. How can I explain what I miss every day? The gnawing in the pit of my stomach. I've become hunger personified with the accompanying acid reflux. I'm not bored. I've become boring. I am boredom. Boredom hoarding the vacuum cleaner hose. Boredom dicing vegetables. Boredom dabbing disinfectant on the scraped knee of a child I hardly know. Perhaps I have no maternal instinct. How do I know? Where do you find it? What price do you pay? Sometimes I feel like setting the house, the furniture, the books, the photographs on fire. Where does this violence come from? And what do I do with it? Only once did I manage to raise my fist high in the air. My daughters were participating in a student demonstration, and I wanted to keep an eye on them, sneakily hidden, so they couldn't find me. They were expecting a gigantic crowd. Maybe there would be violent incidents, arrests, wounded participants, police clubs. Tear gas, who knows? I was worried about my daughters. They're so easily influenced, so romantic, a bit reckless sometimes. They could end up in the arms of a communist, a terrorist, a biker. How lucky? No, that's not what I meant. But why can't I find them in the crowd? What strikes me is all the girls look like my daughters. I thought they were so unique. I'm a bit disappointed. If I want to fit in, I'll have to sing along with the others, stand up, all victims of oppression. I'll have to raise my fist and sing the Internationale. It's impossible. I can't sing that. I can't sing that. I'm not a victim of oppression. I'm one of the privileged. If Pierre saw me now, he'd find me ridiculous. He'd make fun of me. He might even be embarrassed because changing the world is so outdated. He often says that we had our turn, that May 68 was a great party but a failed revolution. He doesn't believe in ideological movements anymore, and he finds militancy a bit of a farce. The mere thought of my husband Pierre made me clench my fist furiously. Then I simply had to take it out of my pocket and raise it as high as possible. I didn't know if it was better to hold your thumb inside or outside. So I tried both. I preferred outside. Suddenly, I'm like them, like my daughters. I might be old, but I have youthful demands like them. I have dashed hopes too. I want to wage a battle and build a better world. I want to believe in the necessity of a revolution and its possibility. I want to be part of the political adventure. Me too. I want to leave my home. I envy your solidarity. I'm suffocating in my solitude. Take me with you. Your song is magnificent. But Simone, you're not a worker. You're not a peasant. You're not a student. And you're nobody's slave. You're a writer, a mother, and Pierre's wife. C'est la lutte finale, groupons-nous et demain l'internationale sera le genre humain.
I'm going to leave Ireland. My son will be born in America, far from disapproving eyes. I'll sail to New York. Over there I'll work as a nurse. I'll rent a little apartment. I'll find a babysitter. I'll work the day shift. I'll study at night. And in between, I'll be a mother. And I'll become a doctor. My son will go to a good college. And when I come back to show him Ireland, I won't be ashamed. I won't make them ashamed. They'll welcome my son, who will be tall, strong, well-mannered. They will all have great respect for my courage, my silence, my sacrifices, my ambition, and they'll regret the suffering I went through. They'll say, "Why didn't you tell us, dearie? We would have helped you. We would have forgiven you. Look how handsome he is, how tall. My word, he's taller than you." And I'll look humbly at my son, the only witness to my sleepless nights. He'll put a protective hand on my shoulder, and I'll lower my eyes with the humility that becomes the victor.
Painting, sculpture, architecture. New York is a manifestation of human genius. Mary often takes her son for a walk in Central Park. She brings her medical textbooks.
But her son always demands her attention.
He shows her the trees, the squirrels, the other children. Look, Mama.
In fact, he wants Mary to look at him looking at something else. When he says, "Look at the dog, Mama," he means, "Look at me, Mama. I'm looking at the dog."
Sometimes Mary takes him to a museum. She thought the paintings would capture his interest.
But the child runs from one painting to another, unable to take them in.
Mary doesn't know how to talk to him about the shapes, colors, and movement. She sees nothing but smeared paint, vain attempts to seduce a blind crowd. Suddenly, New York wavers in her eyes. Before, she used to smile at the sight of the children in Brooklyn playing behind the chain link fences.
Today, she sees children fenced into a miserable fate, and their sadness is blatant.
Childhood is slow. Everything has time to leave its mark, like a stamp. Mary needs the moors, the cliffs, the bogs, the islands.
She's prepared to play the repentant woman. That's what they'll expect of her.
It doesn't matter. She's already half dead from indifference. She'll never be a doctor. She doesn't believe in God, but she misses God.
She will say, "Yes, I was silly, stubborn, prideful. I thought I could fulfill my destiny in New York while raising a child conceived in sin on my own. My father, my mother, my brothers, I call upon your mercy. Please recognize my son as one of yours. I beg you. He will avenge the honor of all Catholics if you ask him to."
So, her son will play on the moors with the sheep with black faces, and on windy days he will call out to the forgotten ancestors of young Irish Americans.
You have to admit it, Pierre. Sometimes we laugh together, don't we? Sometimes we go to see new wave movies. Sometimes we have philosophical conversations. We have fun together, don't we? I try to make sure that we have sex at least once a week. Did you notice? I try to maintain a certain frequency. It's important. Otherwise, we get worried. At least I get worried. I don't know about you. You know what, Pierre? I should kill all the other women, really. Trying to remain fascinating is exhausting. I can't keep it up. It's impossible to compete with women you have yet to meet. Impossible. They have exactly what I don't have. I gave birth to your children, and today your children bother you. Those women are everywhere. They get younger and younger. There are more and more of them. It's a nightmare. Do you remember when we went for a walk down at the port? Every boat, big or small, has a woman's name. I'm telling you, they're everywhere. And you can't help it. You're attracted to them, even when they're dead. A woman's corpse on the beach, and my vacation is ruined. Even though I chose a nice, so isolated region on purpose, I wanted to take a break from competition. I wanted you to have no choice but to contemplate me and, if necessary, Ireland as my backdrop. But now this dead woman has come between us. How could I know that you discovered the body of a woman who drowned? A dead woman younger than me forever. She has managed to disturb you in a way I no longer can. She has moved you the way any stranger with a bust always does. You're so primitive when it comes to women, so predictable, so vulnerable. It's not fair, not fair, not fair, not fair. I can't even scratch out her eyes, tear open her belly, or rip her mouth apart. The birds did it for me. And you see nothing. In your eyes, Mary's death is a sublime ornament. The woman who drowned becomes Ophelia, a pure, fixed image, like those exotic butterflies forever intact in the frames. She can't be rotting flesh. She must remain a white, passive flower, floating, eternally petrified in the beauty of her youth. But Pierre, Mary isn't Ophelia. Do you hear me? Mary isn't the immortal mermaid you imagine. She no longer moves, breathes, or thinks. You adore her because she can't contradict you or resist you. That's why. You worship her helplessness and you abandon me for her. Don't forget that Mary is neither saint nor virgin. Your beautiful Ophelia is actually a monstrous nymph, her fair skin stained with blue. Look at her closely. See how she's bloated she is. See how bloated she is. Soon she will become nothing but putrefaction, decomposition, decay. That's what you refuse to see. You're attracted to Mary because you think she's immutable, incorruptible, while seeing me age makes you anxious. Am I right? You've hated witnessing my deterioration over the past 20 years. You can't stand seeing my body change, but you forget that your dead woman's body will spoil faster than mine. Pierre! 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 Pierre!
Simone has been calling Pierre forever. It feels as if she has called out to him since the beginning of time. She's afraid he won't come. Will he come? She trembles, she tears out her hair, she rolls on the ground, screaming her despair. She blanches, she stumbles, she vomits. Strange, isn't it?
What?
You're Simone, so madly in love.
Yes.
Sometimes I envy all that. I have to admit. But envy quickly gives way to an anticipatory fatigue that saps my courage. Of course, certain impulses are powerful. We're animals. And occasionally after work, after calling the sitter and claiming unexpected overtime, I've gone to sit in a bar and wait. I've even gone so far as to encourage a wandering hand, opened my legs under the table and allowed the stranger's hand to go wherever it wished. It felt good. I returned the favor and he seemed to appreciate it. Afterwards I went home, thanked the sitter and lay down beside my sleeping son. I smothered him with kisses. My one true love.
Mary, you have to help me. You're a doctor. You have to help me. I'm scared. I'm really scared. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm suffering.
She holds her head.
My thirst is constant, unquenchable.
She wrings her hands.
My pupils are dry and gather specks of dust my eyes can't remove.
She points to the nape of her neck.
Without realizing it, I scratch and tear the skin off my arms.
She bares her belly.
When I notice the red marks on my white arms, I think I see strange writing I can't decipher. I feel a poison flowing through my vein, devouring me. I lose my balance. When he's there, I can't see him. When he isn't there, he's all I can see. Is it serious?
It's love. It will pass.
Am I going to die?
You can't die of love. You can die of everything except love.
Fragment 6, the chest.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
They said she suffered so badly from Pierre's absence that she started to invent him.
How?
Simone is folding Pierre's shirts. If she were a sculptor, she would sculpt him. If she were a painter, she would paint him. If she were a photographer, she would photograph him. But Simone can't do anything with Pierre. There is no way to grab hold of him, no way to bring him back. In the meantime, she folds his shirts. She loves touching his clothes. Even as a little girl, she dreamt of having a husband to dress instead of her dolls. They say that Simone is a feminist. Would a feminist get so much pleasure out of folding her husband's shirts? A true feminist would say, "You can fold your own shirts. I'm not your maid. Come on, really?"
I don't see what's degrading about folding shirts. Besides, my intellectual life is closely linked to my domestic chores. The more attentive I am to my housework, the more active my mind is, inspecting, exploring, sifting through the magma of reasoning, drifting with the flow of imagination, dreams, and freedom. It took me a long time to perfect this performance. I'm an intellectual. An intellectual has the right to fold shirts once in a while. I button the collar, then every other button. I stroke the silk, the linen, the cotton. The shirt shivers, comes to life. I lay it face down on the table. Pierre appears in all his fragility. I can see his shoulder blades. He can't see me. I press myself against his back. He jumps. I took him by surprise. He doesn't leave. He doesn't turn around. He knows it's me. He breathes slowly. Then I take his arms and pull them towards me gently. I look like I'm trying to handcuff him, but he's the one who puts his arms around me. I love it when he holds me prisoner. Now he's facing me. He needs to look at me. I can't see his face, but a ghost of Pierre is better than no Pierre at all.
Mary and Pierre are in bed together. Simone comes to join them.
Hello, Simone.
Hello?
Did you sleep well?
Yes, thank you.
When I woke up, I realized I had pulled all the blankets onto me. You and Pierre were completely uncovered. I hope you weren't cold.
No.
Tonight, I'll lie in the middle. I'll be warm between the two of you. I'm just back from a long walk. Wonderful, invigorating. The salty air is full of iodine. The mist hasn't lifted yet. It spreads a veil that softens the contours and blurs the landscape like that French painting. I can't remember which one. It's going to be sunny. The yellow irises and the pink rhododendrons are bursting into bloom. There's a blend of subtlety and boldness in the air this morning. Pierre will love it. Is he still asleep?
Yes.
Amazing how long he can sleep. He scared me.
How?
He was breathing so slowly. I was listening while his chest rose. He exhaled, and I waited for him to inhale again. Nothing. I waited and waited. Time stood still. I watched his immobile chest. I thought, oh no, it's not possible. He's dead.
You're the one who's dead, Mary.
A bit less, thanks to the two of you. You invent me, and I invent you in return. We have become an inseparable trio, a kind of trinity of desire. I am the one who allows you to discover each other. I am your identical fate. Birds aren't the only ones who feed off the dead.
I don't feed off the dead. What a disgusting idea. Go away. Leave us alone. He'll forget you, and you will never sleep with us again. I'm the one who will touch him, breathe into his neck, perspire beneath his hands. I'm still here, not you. You are no longer here. There's nothing left of you. You have no face. You are completely defaced. Your absence, void, abyss, emptiness. I'm full. I'm full of flesh. I'm full of ideas. I'm full of words. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to myself. And you're dead.
What are you doing?
I'm talking to myself.
Stop thinking about it.
About what?
About her.
I'm not thinking about her.
So what are you thinking about?
About death.
Again?
They say that Simone was always thinking about death, like her mother, obsessed.
I'm talking to myself.
Her mother loved to visit graves, loved to attend wakes. She loved to wait for bad news and spread bad news. She loved to spill tears, send letters of condolence, write her will, adding or removing the names of her heirs according to her whims. She loved to imagine her epitaph, write it down, read it out loud, weigh its effect. Her mother cultivated death like an orchid. She'd say, "Love me, Simone. I'm going to die, Simone. You have to love me. I'm going to die."
Love me. I'm going to die.
You aren't your mother. Come swimming with me instead.
I've forgotten how to swim. I've forgotten how to stick out my tongue. I've forgotten how to hold a shirt. Soon I will have forgotten how to speak. The doctor told me. Then how will you find me eloquent, persuasive, colorful, touching, undeniable?
Simone consulted doctors.
Several doctors.
All kinds of tests.
They asked her to do simple things.
Stick out your tongue.
Simone extends an arm to Mary.
She can't do it.
Try again, Simone.
Simone extends the other arm.
Where's your throat?
Simone points to her mouth.
Touch your left elbow.
Simone opens her mouth wide.
Where's your belly?
Simone points to her chest.
Where's your heart?
Simone points to her belly.
Very good, Simone. Very good.
Sometimes we thought she was pretending. We felt like saying, "Stop, Simone, stop pulling her leg."
We'd say, is she pretending? Does she enjoy making us worry?
Fragment 7. The tongue.
After the diagnosis, Simone began to write letters frantically before she was reduced to silence.
Simone and Mary deliver the following letters simultaneously, Mary acting as Simone's interpreter.
My love.
My love.
I'm apostle.
I am making an epistolary attempt
The
before words refuse to leave my body.
I'm freedom,
That
but
vacation set
from
me free, but
what?
free from what?
Baby
I'm not
image
sure,
of
not you, certainly
Cinderella
not.
in
Perhaps from
in
the fairy
I
tale where
wanted
I
us
wanted to hold
prison.
us prisoner.
Vessel
A
of my
vestige
vessel of my
proper
bringing
upbringing.
up. Long, quiet,
A long vacation, a
frozen
long,
freeze,
quiet
time
vacation to make time
shine
stand
bright
still.
like
I polished that time in my mind until it glowed like sunshine.
When you tell figments
It won't be about
of
Mary, just
not
fragments
Mary,
of
not
Mary,
Mary,
the
not
illegible
just
fragments
like
of her life.
figments of life, not the truth,
Mary's
the truth,
death
her
is the place
death,
where I invented
the place
her.
invented her death. I invented,
The place
and
where I finally saw each other in a different light.
I saw
From that place, you appeared so beautiful to me.
beautiful. With love and Mrs. Simone.
I don't understand.
With love and Mrs. Simone.
I don't
With
understand.
love and Mrs.
I
Simone.
don't understand.
With love and kisses, you're Simone.
Fragment 8. The flesh.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
They say that Simone's disease imprisoned words in her flesh, and that her repressed speech broke out occasionally in barbaric sounds. They say that in the end her words got all mixed up and created a strange language that only Pierre could understand.
I didn't understand.
They say that now words are inscribed in her flesh, that her tissue is made of sentences, fossilized words, and ancient stories. They say that when a bird pecks at Simone's flesh to tear off a strip, it frees imprisoned words and flies off with them.
I never understood.
Fragment 9. The brain.
Strange, isn't it?
What?
Simone, the story, my story that she never finished.
She almost finished it. She would have finished soon.
She wouldn't have known how to invent my death. That's beyond her. Inconceivable. Otherwise, she would have drowned herself. She considered that, of course. But water is too familiar to her. Too comfortable, too soothing. Simone comes from the Mediterranean coast. It's the egg, the first cradle. Just thinking about diving makes her euphoric. She's enveloped. The water swallows her and spits her out, swallows her and spits her out, until we can't tell which is the ocean, the water, or her. She thought, A corpse is something else in our culture. It's much more than a living person. She thought, I want to die soundlessly, and death is like a word, inseparable from the sound it makes.
Simone would have said, first comes the immersion. The glottis closes. Mary tries voluntary apnea, but quickly, the breathing reflex kicks in. Simone would have said, Mary inhales water. Loss of consciousness. Convulsion. Cardiac arrest. That's it. The heart stops beating. Mary floats away. Mary becomes the white bird buoyed out on the foam of the sea. The vacation in Ireland is over.
I would have said, farewell, Mary. Farewell, bird of the loam. I'll write you light. A flood of light, formless light, shapeless, endless.
Fragment 10, The Heart.
Today, the sea is imitating your calm like a drowsy lioness. The tide has erased all traces of yesterday. It's as if yesterday never existed. I would like to be that wave that erases everything and deposits in exchange a bit of itself. Its mark, delicate etchings on the sand, a bit of lacy froth, driftwood bleached white as bones. I would like to be that wave that consoles your transformation. I would like to rediscover everything you are, every part of you. Re-become the pioneer of your body. Forget all the previous expeditions. Be amazed once again by your shapes and textures, your geography that would never cease to dazzle me, like an undertow of marvel, a perpetual shower. I would like to examine you down to the skeleton that forms your architecture. Your patient skeleton knows that in the end, it will be all that is left. Speak to me again.
I say, my love. I say, my love. I used to say, our life for two. I used to say, our wedding, our days, our nights. I used to say, our story, our past, and our future. I used to say, our childbirth, our breastfeeding, and I said, our disease, our treatment, our degeneration. I dreamed to say, our dying day. You remember? I wanted my dying day to be yours too, but now I know that one life is not enough for two. We would each need at least 10 lives. Time to learn how to live. Just imagine, don't worry, my love. I won't take you with me. I won't drown us. Words are what will drown in my memory soon, I know it. My words like ants in amber. I have captive ants in my impure tongue. I will speak until the end of language and lies. My syntax will be dismembered. My grammar will be dislocated. My sentences decapitated. My words will turn against each other. My tongue torn out soon. I know I won't I won't know how to say, but I say I will not drown myself. I will return to the source of language where lexicon and cosmos have yet to take form. I will return to that nonverbal place before the colonization of language, before all words are trapped. I say, look, my love, the landscape, like an internal banquet, a feast for the eyes. But soon I won't be able to say what I see. Listen, my love, I say, murmuring shadows on the sand. The reach is a blanket of supreme birds. Look how high they roar and slide, and say the sniggles, the signals, pop waterweed beneath their feet, tear tooth and nail the flesh of pearls. I say the bashing and nippling of waves. The sun is sunk, it's going to bed. Look, my love, I see one swing and I sway another. The sky is mauve and draped in cotton, untraveled. Oh, words are tripping and jumping. There is sound in my ears. Listen, my love, I say we are no longer three. We are no longer two, and you are not alone. We are innumerable. Death, with its clever fingers, weaves swallow nests in the hair of the drowned. I say, don't break. The horses will stamp, slow tide. You will remember their hoofs and the horse that died one day, and that it wasn't you. I say words embrace me. I say chaos triumphs. I say no more. I sound, listen. Soon I will only know how to say my love.
Thank you very, very much. All right, so for those of you who are watching, I hope that you've been taking notes and writing notes to us, and maybe asking some questions or making some comments. So we'll stay here. Why don't you take a break? And if anybody needs to have a break here, we'll just kind of regroup in a few minutes. How's it looking, Cliff? Are people asking questions? Okay. And of course, our audience here. Love to hear comments and questions. Mind you, you'd probably know more about the play than anybody else does. So. Fabulous, fabulous.
Oh, you're so kind.
Oh, God.
So, are Alice and Evelyne
I hope so,
come
yeah.
over here for the Q&A?
Yeah. Great. So thank you very much for sticking with us. We have here, of course, our cast. We have Normand Bissonnette, who played Pierre, and Violette Chauveau, who, as you know, played Simone. And this is Evelyne de la Chenelière, our writer, the playwright. Beside her is Alice Ronfard, whom I mentioned in my introduction is the daughter of Simone and Pierre, who are actually Marie Cardinal and Jean-Pierre Ronfard. Alice worked closely with Eve in sharing with her some of her mother's personal papers, so that the play goes further than the novel did, as if you want to have any discussions about that. Next to Alice is our brilliant translator, Linda Gaborio, whom I've had the privilege of working with, 25, 30 years ago when we were doing, what was that, with the giant puppets, with the Théâtre Sans Fil.
Yes,
remember that? Yeah, that was
right.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And then next to her is Eve Gadois, who is just fabulous as the dead body. And as you can see, she's very, very much alive. So we hear that there's some questions. Cliff, if you could tell us who's got a question and what they are.
All right, so J.R. Giroux.
Yeah?
How might the corpse move and interact in a staged production? How might how might she change her presentation as her role in the story changes?
Okay.
Okay, so repeat it again.
I understand.
But we want to repeat the question.
Okay.
So how might the corpse?
Yeah, how might the corpse move and interact in a staged production?
How much the corpse move and interact in a staged production?
And how might she change her presentation as her role in the story changes?
And how might she change her presentation as her role in the story changes? And Alice, of course, is the director who directed it.
We search a lot to incarner, to do this body, sorry. Because it's not so easy. It's a metaphor, I think. So the first thing with the scenographer, what we have done is to make a table, which is a working table, like my father has. Okay, we were very influenced by this large table, and the scenographer says to me, it would be interesting to have the print of the body of Mary in the middle of the table. So Mary is integrated into the table. That was the first thing that we thought about. And after, I've been influenced by the work of the sculpture of Hans Belmer. We has make a series of puppet, what is he called La Poupée, the puppet. And all the movement of the body is like a sculpture moving on this table, on a chair. So it's a very choreographic, she was playing it. It's a very choreographic work. It's not realist. And it needs a lot of abs. And because it's like, I don't know, une traînée, how do you say that?
Something sort of floating and moving.
And it
very
works.
fluid.
It works.
Yes, great. That's fabulous. And I forgot to mention, you might have seen in the notes online, that Evelyne de la Chenelière, the playwright, also is a brilliant actress, and she played Mary, the dead body, in the original production. So, talk about wheels within wheels and connections.
It's a very hard work to make this entity exist, because it's not real, but all unreal, So I really try a choreographic work on this character. Voila. So for those who are interested, Hans Belmer is really a great artist, a German artist, and I pick inspiration from the puppet of Hans Belmer.
Oh, well, that's really fascinating. So the second part of the question was how did you make her come alive, or how did you integrate her movement in as she came alive? Is that
Yeah.
How did she change?
Her presentation as her role in the story changes?
how did she change her presentation as her role in the story changed?
Ça, je la comprends pas, la question, là.
Comment la comédienne qui joue Mary a pu changer sa présentation, sa tonalité?
Parce qu'elle change de registre, tu sais, parfois quand tout à coup c'est elle qui se met à raconter l'histoire de...
Ah oui.
tu sais, tout à coup elle devient...
Ben, tu peux peut-être en parler, puisque tu l'as vu.
Ça va être difficile. Peut-être que Linda, tu peux m'aider au fur et à mesure. Oh, merci. Je voulais pas te faire travailler, mais là, d'une façon spontanée, je pourrais pas m'exprimer en anglais. Je suis désolée. Ça me demande beaucoup de préparation. Donc oui, Mary, au fur et à mesure de la pièce, il y a un changement de registre dans sa présence.
So there is a shift in level for Mary as the action unfolds.
Et de mémoire, justement, il me semble que cette présence un peu chorégraphique, sculptée et stylisée emprunte le registre de...
Elle devient vivante.
Elle devient vivante puisqu'elle devient celle qui... Il y a un renversement et c'est elle qui se met à inventer et à raconter Simone et Pierre.
So the very fluid choreographic interpretation of Mary, when she's still the corpse on the beach, shifts into reality as she becomes not only the real woman that Simone has imagined, but she is so real she begins to imagine Simone. So the real Mary, so to speak, real Mary, has to speak and move differently.
Wow.
And it was the
Thank you,
same.
Linda.
We tried to do the same in the lecture, which was a little bit difficult because visually nothing happens, but we try with the voice to go somewhere. C'est ça.
Well, I believe you succeeded. We have a very small audience here, but they're all deeply moved and just carried away by how fabulous the script is and by the performances. So, and certainly I'm one of the people who's really impressed.
Me too.
Cliff, is there something else?
Yeah. So, wonderful production and powerful performances. The play has a strong sense of at times bleak intimacy and imprisonment. Is Beckett an influence along with other Irish writers?
Oh wow!
Wow.
Well, that was too much for me to remember. So they were complimenting the performances and the extraordinary writing, and asking if Beckett was one of the influences on the writing along with other Irish writers.
Oui. Yes, I'm very influenced by Beckett because when I write text dedicated to to theater, to bodies and to life, I always imagine. I always like to imagine that something will happen just when the words will come out, and so it's not so much about the ideas, but the impact of words and construction of sentences going through the body, and what sense does it make when it's actually vibrating on stage? And I think a few writers before me, plenty of writers before me, had the same thoughts when writing for theater.
Mm-hmm. That the words themselves actually change the vibration in the room.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
How interesting. It's just another level to this whole thing where Evelyne has been influenced by an Irish writer who wrote in French.
Yes. Yes, it was a longtime associate of Joyce in Paris. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, as you can see, there are just so many connections. Yes.
Another question. So congratulations on this dynamic and moving reading.
Congratulations. Let me say it out loud so
Thank
that the
you.
audience can. Congratulations on this moving and dynamic reading.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful translation.
It was a wonderful translation.
What were some of the challenges in translating the play?
What were some of the challenges in translating the play, Linda?
Well, you can imagine, because it's such a poetic text. And the other thing, I saw the production. I was devastated by it. I knew Moussia, I knew Marie Cardinal and Jean-Pierre, and I could not believe that Alice had been able to recreate this fictional version, but with many, many real traits that I recognized, and that Violette as Moussia, as Marie Cardinal. I was catatonic at the end. I was very embarrassed. I didn't leave my seat because I was crying so hard. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to do this for Alice, for Moussia, for Jean-Pierre. And I could feel exactly what Evelyne just said, that there is some, of course the words are very complex, and the poetry, and to find that spareness that can come with Beckett, for instance, that Evelyne had distilled in her original. But what I felt I could do, because I felt it so much in my belly, was channel it in some way. So it's one of those, I mean, as translators of theater, we often say to people, well, if I have occasionally mentored young translators, theater drama translators, and when they're working on a first text, I say, yeah, everyone's going to say, don't do tongue twisters. Make sure you give the actors a script they can say without tripping. But the real thing is they have to do exactly what Evelyne and these actors, you can't tell, but I could tell they were doing it. And I saw Violette do it in French, channel it through their bodies. It has to be embodied. So those words made flesh, if I didn't mean the religious connotation there, but in Evelyne's text, she speaks, Simone says, you know, the words are there, embodied, encrusted in the, and that's sort of what has to happen for a theater text to work on stage, and that's what the translator has to go for. And because it was so successfully done in the original, I just had to sort of plug in.
Beautifully said. Yeah, it was just an extraordinary text. I had the privilege of working on the text kind of syllable by syllable as I was coaching Violette and Eve to, you know, in English, you know, and I was exploring the words myself in a way that even as a performer I wouldn't necessarily have done. And it was just a phenomenal job, you know, to see the internal rhyme that Linda created, and the constant the kind of things that poets do with the repetition of percussive consonants and things like that. And I was just a joy to look at. And boy, oh boy, you did an incredible job.
Thank you so much. It was incredible because when we did the French production, we were always joking about, let's do it in English. And we were making those big jokes. And we were saying the text, like inventing words in English, and it was so bad. It so wrong. And when I read Linda's text, I was just like, I was trembling. I was crying. I said, "This is amazing." She did the same thing, but in English. It's incredible. I'm just like so. No, it was really like. I never thought it could be as good as that. Never, never. So, that's all.
Beckett had a fabulous translator. His translator was a woman named Barbara Bray. Rumor has it that at one point he was married, but that they had also been lovers. Well, she knew how to channel Beckett.
Right. Right, yes.
So the structure and voice of the play, how these characters speak to themselves, each other, first and third person, is that an invention to adapt this to the stage, or does that come from the novel?
Okay, my brain just doesn't work. So say it again.
So the structure and the voice of the play,
The structure and the voice of the play,
how these characters speak to themselves,
how these characters speak to themselves,
each other, first and third person,
each other, first and third person.
is that an invention to adapt this to the stage,
Is that an invention to adapt this to the stage,
or does that come from the novel?
or does that come from the novel?
It's an invention because the novel the structure is how can I say classic.
Very classical.
Oui.
Narrative, really.
And I found that I needed to shake it and to make it my own as if possible. And I was also, it was important to me that I was, of course, fascinated by the story of this novel, but I found it richer for me to include not only the plot of this particular novel, but the whole literary universe of Marie Cardinal and her life as well, because it was so close and to her writing, the way she lived, the way she changed, becoming this successful writer, and the way she ended her life also, because she lost the words. She suffered of aphasia.
Aphasia.
And for me, it was so important. It was so. Of course, it's sad, but it was rich to try to imagine what she has been through, being this woman of words and trying to lose them and being conscious of losing this. So that was not part of the novel at all, of course, because she didn't know it when she wrote this novel. But for me, it was rich, and it was a way to métaboliser l'œuvre plutôt que d'essayer de la montrer.
It was a way to metabolize the work rather than show it.
Je sais pas si j'ai bien répondu.
You did. That was a brilliant answer. Thank you. Thank you. I know I read a little piece that you wrote, Violette, about, and you talked about meeting Marie Cardinal at the end of her life.
Yes.
And how struck you were by her energy.
Oh, she was a fascinating woman. Her books and the person and the personality. She was amazing. She's incredible. What to say? Yeah, because I was working a lot at le Théâtre Expérimental with Jean-Pierre Ronfard, the father of Alice, and who's a great theater man. He's c'est quelque chose. With him, Jean-Pierre Ronfard and Robert Gravel, I was working a lot at the Théâtre Expérimental, Nouveau Théâtre Expérimental. And Marie Cardinal was always coming to see Jean-Pierre. But I shouldn't get too personal here. Should I, Alice? Je ne veux pas raconter des anecdotes trop personnelles.
Vas-y.
No, it was funny because actually she was very, and he was like Jean-Pierre. He liked a lot of women.
Everybody knows.
He was always cruising women, and actually, I have a very nice relationship with Marie Cardinal because I never influenced that.
Never succumbed.
and I never encouraged that. That's what I meant. And she at the beginning, she didn't speak to me. She was like, she ignored me, and she was really like, how do you say, like very expeditive, very
Dismissive.
yeah, and cold with me. And then when she saw that I wasn't dangerous for the couple, she became really, we went really, like, we were really close. And even sometimes she came to me and she told me, Jean-Pierre is not very nice with me today. That kind of stuff. So it was like, I knew the person in intimacy a little bit.
Wow.
I want to. Anyways, c'est un peu gênant.
She's looking at me.
Mais c'est quand même vos vies, là. It's their lives. I don't want to be like too.
But the
personal.
Mediterranean side of Marie that Pierre mentions, talking about Simone, she was sort of a force de la nature presence, incredibly sensual. And I remember once I visited in Provence, and then with Jean-Pierre at the Théâtre Expérimental, they had Jean-Pierre and Gravel decided that they would have un club de la philosophie.
Ah oui, le club de philosophie.
C'était le club
philosophique.
Mais it was
C'est juste la
Rabelaisian philosophy. The idea was
To eat and
we
drink.
would alternate houses,
Okay.
and the person whose house the philosophical club was going to meet at would cook a huge meal. And so there was always food. Just again, Evelyne captured that in her play. You know, so it was, and for me it was always, I never saw, I obviously was never perceived as a threat. because Monsieur was always very warm and open with me. But so it's so hard at first, you know, when you read Une vie pour deux, and you know her in more social, to imagine the jealousy thing. You know, it didn't go with the woman somehow, except for the passionate side. You know, that is a wonderful font for jealousy. Anyway, it was a great privilege to know them both and to be able to celebrate them through Evelyne's play.
Cliff, you have another question?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Marie Cardinal says very well done.
Thank you.
Very well done from Marie Cardinal. Thank you.
Yeah. And Iman McKee asks, how does the language, French or English, affect the performances and the play's impact, or does it?
So the question is, how does the language, French or English, impact the play and the performance, or does it?
Doesn't. Ça n'altère pas la représentation. It doesn't affect.
Alice says no, it doesn't affect.
When we were rehearsing, we asked exactly the same question to interpret for the characters. The difference is just that it's in English, but the characters are the same. Because in the text of Evelyne, there is this full of poetry and distanciation, and that on retrouve that we find in English. For me, there is no difference.
Well, that is a tribute to Linda's translation, for sure.
No, oui, c'est ça. Y a pas. There is no big. When we were rehearsing, we always said, "My God, it's such a good translation." Really, because we were working, and it's exactly it didn't move so far from what we find in French, I think.
In terms of the play, I agree that I didn't do it in French, but I think to me it's the same, as it's as good when I read and when I hear it. But from an actor's perspective, performing in a second language when it's not your language, that's where the big difference lies for us, for me at least. Whereas I don't have the same freedom, so I have to work much harder in order to try to come up with something that is acceptable, and also you can't fall back on your old tricks. You have to, you can't improvise the same way. And also, there are a way of saying things in French where the stresses are, where the tonic, the accents are, and we tend to reproduce that in the second language, and often the stress is in the wrong place, and it sounds a bit off. So we have to really work hard in order to wrap our minds around a different way of saying something that we'd know really well how to say in our first language. But luckily we had you, Kathleen, to help us navigate and try to make it our own. And also, since this was just a reading, we didn't have tons of hours of rehearsals. If ever we were to do a stage version, then with all the rehearsal time, I think would make things a little easier.
But fundamentally, doesn't really affect the fact that it was in English. Does not affect the play, I think.
No. I agree with you.
No, not at all.
That's
my
the
question.
cuisine, you know?
My question and direction with the actor are exactly the same. Be careful there. There is at this moment there is this must happen, or there. You know, it's better if you go this way. I don't even. For me, it's exactly the same résonance. Résonance.
Yeah, resonance is fine.
Résonance. C'est la même chose.
Actually, the play in French, when we worked in French, it was difficult also because of the poetry, and we had to get the poetry concrete in a certain way. So it was difficult in French. I remember like rehearsing hours and hours in French. Like I was getting crazy about the long monologues, and so it's the same thing in English. It's a little harder, but we'll get there. We're going to be perfect. Don't worry. We'll get there. We're working on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've done the same piece in English and French myself as a performer, and once you get it on its feet, there is a slightly different energy that will occur, and it may not be obvious to anybody except for the individual performer. It's just something that happens. But no, it's one of the great joys and intrigues of being bilingual and being able to work and having the opportunity to work in both languages, which not everybody who's bilingual does have that opportunity, but we do.
Yep. I had one interesting experience with Gracia Angelina. Towards the end, it was the last play he wrote and the last performance that he did with his wife, the wonderful Huguette Oligny. It was La Passion de Narcisse Mondou. And they did it in French very successfully, a two-hander, Gratien and Huguette. And they were invited to do a Canadian tour and even to go to, the Victory Theatre in New York. So they were quite nervous about performing. Both of them were quite fluent in English, but nervous about it. And they came to my house to do a reading to give me feedback on the draft of the translation. And at one point, Gratien said, Ma belle Linda, là, je tape du pied. And he pointed to a line and he said, in French, I stamp my foot right there. I have to stamp my... He was beginning to have some memory lost. So it was very important for him to be able to embody it as he spoke it in the same way he had been working it through. And so, but the thing that really drove home for me is what we said earlier, and this was 20 years ago. As a theater translator, I really have to give a score that the instrument called an actor can play with the whole body, not just the throat and the expressions, but the whole being, you know. And it was a very interesting, it drove it home. I sort of knew it intuitively, but Gratien helped me nail it, right? Or nail the principle. I don't always succeed.
Wow. Lovely. Okay, well, this was a brilliant discussion. Is there anything anybody else would like to ask? Anything you want to ask? Or you, Alice?
Think
Or
we have a
Linda?
question over there.
Oh, yes, sorry, I can't see that.
I don't know if you'll be able to hear me.
We'll come up to the mic,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Okay. Before the presentation tonight, we were sitting around the table and we were talking about the theme of this year's Bloomsday Festival, and it happens to be ripples. And one of the things that came out from this discussion about ripples was that when I was listening to the play this evening, I could hear the ripples, the echoes of Ulysses, especially the Circe chapter, and from Finnegan's Wake, where Anna Livia Pluribel, the water, the river Liffey, flows back to the ocean to begin again. And so it was an absolutely wonderful translation, a wonderful writing, and it proves to us that James Joyce gives us permission to write outside the box and create masterpieces. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Okay, well, listen, I think that's it. Kevin, did you want to do your thing? Kevin is our president.
Okay, I will need to sit.
Would you like to sit here?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Was it intentional that the line sort of got blurred between the living and the dead, particularly in that interchange between Violette and Eve, when Eve was almost acting as a simultaneous translator for Violette, who's got the speech impediment, and so Violette sort of sounds like she's getting worse and less healthy, and Eve is kind of coming alive, and so it sounded to me as though the line was getting blurred. Was all this kind of intentional, or was it just my interpretation of it?
Oh, I think your interpretation is just perfect. I mean, it was my intention. For me, it's as if the more Simone is getting healed and loses her words and her life slowly, the most everything that will go on after her, all the other women, the other lives are kind of a nightmare to her. So I like to imagine that she imagines Mary really becoming alive and take her place, and after she's somewhere else at the very end, Simone, but there's this passage very hard for her when everything that is alive is a threat for her.
Beautiful, thank you.
Kevin,
Okay.
would you like to sit here?
Diagiv is Misha Quivin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Wright, and I'm the president of Festival Bloomsday Montreal. I would like, first of all, to thank Cliff Schwartz and the staff of the Wheel Club for hosting us this evening. Kathleen Fee, Bloomsday Montreal's artistic director, the Bloomsday Organizing Committee for putting this on tonight. I would also like to thank Violette Chauveau, Normand Bissonnette, Eve Gadoua, the director, Alice Ronfard, the translator, Linda Gaborio, and of course, the person who wrote the play, Evelyne de la Chenelière. I would also like to thank you, our audience, for being with us. I would like to acknowledge the financial support received from the following people: the Department of Canadian Heritage, the Embassy of Ireland, the St. Patrick's Society of Montreal, the Zellers Family Foundation, the McGill Community for Lifelong Learning. As much as we are grateful for this financial support, it would be impossible to present events such as this without help from viewers like you. If you'd like to help, please click the donate button on the blurb where you registered, and you'll be taken to the Canada Helps page. Be as generous as your circumstances allow. Receipts for income tax purposes will be sent by Canada Helps. Thank you once again. Ikiwa. Good evening, everyone. We'll see you soon. June is coming. Bloomsday Festival is on its way. Thank you.